Saints Rams recap, New Orleans.Football. Tough game last night. Slept on it. Obviously, we recapped it, reviewed it right after the game. So feelings similar. You know, sometimes when you let a game simmer, when you let a result kind of happen and you think about it, you might shift in what your initial perception of the game. But I think we were pretty dead on. You know, I don't foresee a lot changing when it comes to the viewpoints of this team or what the loss really means as far as like the goal of the season or the goal moving forward. And we'll cover a lot of that probably in this video right now.
It's a similar storyline, just a different opponent. The Rams are undoubtedly one of the better teams that the Saints have faced this season, but it was another Saints loss where they got close in the end and ran out of time. Yeah,
I mean, the Saints, the Rams are probably the best team we've faced all year. I've had a lot of people say, you know, the Rams are 500 or the Rams aren't great. The Rams are good right now. Right now, they are one of the, I would say, probably one of the 4 best teams in the NFC, maybe 3-ish, the way they're playing right now. I mean, they're playing better than Philadelphia. They're playing arguably better than Dallas. You know, are they in the long run better than those teams? I don't know about that, but right now they're playing pretty good, especially with their roster. You know, especially if Matt Stafford plays that good, if Puka Nacua plays that good, if Kyron Williams plays that good. I mean, they are a dangerous team. They're nowhere near the Jalen Ramsey, you know, Aaron Donald defense of the Super Bowl. They're not that good defensively, but they're still capable for sure. So the Rams, and not to mention just how good Sean McVay is as a coach. I mean, just a total masterclass. And yeah, I mean, the Saints, it really is frustrating to watch because the Saints get absolutely dominated, just completely dominated for 3.75 quarters. And then at the very end, when all hope is lost, they do just enough to make you not turn the TV off. Like, just enough to not start a new Netflix series. And then they end up losing anyways. You know, to me, the result, the story is so consistent. We've seen this so often that I don't think the final score is fooling anybody. I don't think anyone is seeing the final score and being like, man, you know, we were onside kick away or one possession away. We really weren't. We were never there. And I think we said it before, where I think the Saints just get so in their own head. I don't know if it's Allen or Carr or Carmichael or who, but the identity, the culture, the philosophy of the team is so problematic where we don't allow ourselves to reach our full potential until there's nothing to lose, until your back is completely against the wall and it doesn't matter if you throw an interception. It doesn't matter if you have a bad play call. It doesn't matter any of that stuff because the game is out of reach. And then all of a sudden we look good. You know, last night, let me help Brooke out here.
Welcome.
There we go. The Alvin Kamara stuff. And I kind of talked about this in the comments of the video after the game. But the problem with throwing to Kamara is nothing to do with Carr. You know, people were saying like, oh, well, if Carr checks down to Kamara, you call him a check down merchant. If he doesn't throw to Kamara, you whine about that. It's nothing to do with Carr. It's the scheme. It's the game plan. It's the idea of getting the ball in your best player's hand. Alvin Kamara is the best player on the team. He's the best offensive weapon we have. He is the guy. He is the engine to the offense. Let's get him involved. He's not running the ball successfully. How else can we get him involved? How else can we beat the blitz? Oh, I know how. Utilizing him in the passing game. Throwing him the ball. We don't throw the ball at all to him. One catch the entire game until the game is out of reach, until it's 30-7. And then we throw it to him 4 times on one drive. And we score on that drive. That is not a Carr thing. That's not a Kamara thing. That is strictly a game plan, philosophy, scheme thing. And it's just, that's what frustrates me about this team. It doesn't frustrate me that we lost. Losing to this team on the road, short rest, all that stuff, very normal. We were underdogs in the game. It's not like we blew. It's not like the Vikings game or the Packers game where we were favored, or even the Falcons game where, you know, we're probably the better team, we should win. In this game, we were coming from behind. You know, pause. We were absolutely the team, you know, with the backs against the wall to start the game. We were the underdog. We were supposed to lose, no doubt. But it's just frustrating that we don't put our best foot forward. We don't even set ourselves up for success. That's what's disappointing, is that we handicap ourselves with the scheme, with the play calling, with the plan. That's why I think Carr it's okay to say, let's see what Carr can do with a competent coaching staff. Let's see what Carr can do with a better game plan, and that goes for everybody. That goes for the entire offense. That goes for all these players. Let's see what Olave can do. Let's see what Foster Moreau, Jawan Johnson, and Alvin Kamara, and Taysom, everybody, because you can see it. The plan that we had going into this game, the first 8 possessions, we had 1 score, 7 unsuccessful possessions. It's because we handicapped ourselves with what we were trying to do.
Back to the dot, presented by Matt Bauer's Auto Group. I'm Brooke Kirchhoffer. The Saints were down 30-7 with 12 minutes and 47 seconds left in the game. They cut that deficit to 8 points with 4 minutes to play, down 30-22.
Yeah.
But their efforts for an end-of-game comeback fell short.
I do know that our guys continue to fight.
No doubt. They do continue to fight. And, man, it says a lot about this team, because a lot of other teams would have quit. A lot of other teams would have quit. And how many times, the more I'm thinking about it, the more it's just frustrating me. Like Minnesota, we do absolutely nothing all game long. And then when the game is totally out of reach, we claw back to make it somewhat of a game. That, to me, that shows you that when we get away from the coaches, when we get away from the scheme and the game plan and whatever they've put out there, when we get away from that, and it's just go out there and ball, don't think, we got to just do something, we got to do it fast. We can't, it's almost like we can't let Dennis and Pete get in the way. When we get in those situations, we are the most successful. That is when we are the most successful as a team. We've shown that all year long. Now, yes, part of that is definitely the fact that the other team is playing like a preventative kind of defense, and they're not, it's not the same, obviously. When you're up, when you're up 30-7, the Rams aren't calling the same defense they would have called if it was a 1-possession game all throughout. So that certainly is part of it. 100%, you got to factor that in.
It's can be a little frustrating that you'd like to think you could do some of those things a little bit earlier in the game. And like I said, we moved the ball at times early in the game. We missed some opportunities and to keep some drives alive. So. But look, we
really didn't, though. We really didn't move the ball early. Like we kind of did what we did earlier in the season, where we're pretty efficient from our 30 to their 30, but we're real bad at times when it comes to sustaining those drives. And we saw that a lot in those first 8 drives. I'm going to point to those first 8 drives a lot, because that's at the end of that 8th drive is when we were down 30-7. So that's when the game was pretty much over. But you go those 8 drives, if you go and look at it, it's pretty much just 30-30, just efficient there, bogged down, fall apart, and then that's it. And you just can't do that against good teams. You can't do virtually nothing for 2 quarters, 3 quarters, and expect the game to be tight. It just doesn't work against good teams. And that's why the Saints aren't successful against good teams. That's 100% the reason. Is because they just don't do anything early on. And the inability to do things early on is because of whatever we're doing leading up to the game. Whatever we're doing in the planning sessions or the, getting the scheme together, the strategy together, the plan, all that stuff, that's why we aren't successful. It's because that's our worst thing. That's the worst thing we do is plan. The worst thing we do is our first possession of the game. We have yet to score a touchdown on the first possession of the game. Crazy. Absolutely insane. I said this yesterday. Sean McVay, the Rams, 11 out of 15 of their first possessions they've scored. I mean, it's just apples and oranges. It really is. We are playing a different game than the elite or even the above average teams. You look at Kyron Williams, the game he had yesterday, 100-something yards, whatever it was, 20-something carries. And then you look at our rushing for the entire season. We haven't had over 85 yards rushing for whoever our starting running back is during that game. We cannot do that. It seems impossible for us to have a 100-yard rusher. What did Kamara have, 19 yards or something like that last night? So it's indicative of the Allen Carmichael era. I mean, this is the most predictable, the most yep, this is about what I thought would happen kind of game ever. Two guys who were completely exposed on national TV with nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. They weren't it wasn't noon on Fox with 1,000 other games going on. Prime time for all to see. And they got dressed down. You know, they got out-coached in every single part of the game. And we saw the result, basically. So, you know, any team can beat anybody, no doubt about it. But with these two at the helm, this franchise, it certainly has a ceiling, and the ceiling is not very tall. You could not put a substantial Christmas tree in the living room with the height of the ceiling that Allen and Carmichael have put on this team.
We lost on the road to a good team. And now we got to go regroup and get ready for Tampa Bay.
Also at the end of games, like Coach Gruden always told me, he said, we're never out of a game. We keep that right arm in it. You know, so I've always just that mentality. You know, you just, as a quarterback, you're like, I kept telling our guys, keep believing, we're going to win. We're going to win. Boom, we'd score. Boom, we'd score. Then you felt the belief rise.
Yeah, well, maybe say that at the beginning of the game, Derek. Maybe like when you're like in the first quarter, maybe say like, hey, let's just believe. Let's believe we're going to score. Maybe in the first, like, I don't know, hour and a half of the game, you can instill a little bit of that belief and maybe not wait until you're down 30-7. I'm spitballing here. I'm just kind of spitballing where maybe we could not wait until it's 30-7 in prime time to start this belief train, to start playing the Tony Robbins motivational, tapes or audio books or whatever it is on the sideline. Let's get some of that going maybe pregame. Let's get some of that going maybe like after the first 3 and out, or the second 3 and out, or the third 3 and out, or the fourth 3 and out. Maybe we can kind of, start to light the candles and use the sage or whatever we got to do.
But we didn't. We just ran out of time.
Head coach Dennis Allen knew the challenge. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford.
I really hate that. I really hate the idea that we ran out of time. Guys, it was 30-7. Okay, we didn't run out of time. We put ourselves behind the biggest 8 ball possible. 30-7 on the road against a really good Rams team with a Hall of Fame coach. You're not. It's not like. I mean, this is one of those things where you can't say, "Oh man, if we would have just finished a couple drives, or a penalty here, a penalty there, or we just ran out of time." It's like, my God, we were never. It was 30-7. Same with Minnesota, where you're doing absolutely nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. I mean, if you had a test, right? If you're taking the SAT or the ACT or something, it's a 100-question test, and you have 3 hours to do the test. And for 2 hours and 58 minutes, you don't do anything. You just sit there twiddling your thumbs, doing nothing at all. And then the last 2 minutes of the exam, you fill out a bubble and get it right. You didn't run out of time. You never gave yourself a chance. That's the Saints. They didn't run out of time. They never, ever gave themselves a chance.
Stafford and his slew of talented receivers would present this defense. It would be an eye test Thursday night in prime time. On too many occasions, the Saints failed that eye test, and it even led to Saints cornerback Alontae Taylor getting benched in the third quarter.
I think they got him a couple times with his eyes, and so I just felt like it was the right move for our team at that point.
The type of scheme that they have, and the type of players they have, I think every down is a test, right? They're testing your eyes, they're testing your leverage, they're testing your patience, and that's what they bank on. They run a lot of the same plays, but they're not trying to trick you. They're just waiting on you to mess up. And
that is Sean McVay to a T. They run a lot of the same plays. What is that called, ladies and gentlemen? Say it every week. You know the answer. The Rams have an identity. Sean McVay has an identity. That's it. He is doing the same thing. He knows what he's going to do. His whole thing, Sean McVay's whole thing, his whole career, is we're going to do this thing. We're going to run the ball effectively. We're going to do play action off that. And we're going to have a simple route tree in layers. And I'm going to expect my quarterback to make the right read. That is what he has done his entire career. And that's why Jared Goff had success. Matt Stafford has success. Cooper Kupp has success. Puka Nacua has success. Todd Gurley had success. Kyron Williams had success. Cam Akers had success. When you have an identity and you have something you believe in, and you have a scheme like Sean McVay does, and you know what you're looking for, you don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to try and trick people. You don't have to do double reverse flea flicker or whatever. You don't have to do that. You just run your offense, you run your identity, you run your scheme with the players you have, and that's it. That is how you execute. That's when execution becomes part of the verbiage, because all they have to do is execute McVay's plan. The Saints don't have that. We don't have a scheme that we can just lean back on. We don't have a system that's foolproof that we can just lean back on, keep playing, keep pushing the system, and then eventually it'll work. Eventually it'll break. That's how good McVay is. That's how good the scheme is. That's how good the identity is he could do the same thing for this long, win a Super Bowl, get to a Super Bowl, new quarterback, new running back, new wide receivers, whoever. People flourish. People do this. He's doing the same thing every season. And teams have trouble stopping it. We saw that tonight. They had 500 yards of total offense. They could have done whatever they wanted. Just over and over and over and over again. Like, think about like a boxer, like Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd Mayweather was in his prime, he did the same thing every match, every single fight. He has a system. He has an identity. He knows what he's trying to do. He's not trying to trick people. He's not trying to reinvent the wheel. That's why I stress how important it is to have an identity, to have a philosophy on offense or defense, one of the two. We just don't.
So they definitely took advantage of, all the times that we dropped the guy, missed the tackle, didn't fit a gap. They exposed us in that regard.
The Saints preached being aggressive this week, which is why they decided to go for it on 2 fourth down opportunities. On both, the Saints failed to convert. The Rams turned the first into a field goal and the second into a touchdown.
Yeah.
LA also capitalized off of a Derek Carr interception in the third quarter with a touchdown drive. Now, the Saints knew that they were going to have to utilize the passing game to move the chains going up against a stout Rams run defense, but 319 yards through the air was not enough to get the job done in LA.
A lot of it, too, was late. I mean, no doubt. Like, a lot of it, after the game, a lot of people, they want it to be all about Carr, or they want it to be all about, was Derek good or was Derek bad? And my answer after the game was he was fine. Like, it was kind of irrelevant. Like, he wasn't awful, nor was he great. And then it's like, oh, what about the interception? Like, in the NFL, like, interceptions do happen. Yeah, that was a bad interception. Was Carr awful tonight? No, he was probably like a C-, just like bang average, just a bang average quarterback. But it's so much bigger than that. That is what I'm trying to get across with this game. The problems are bigger than Derek Carr right now. The problems are bigger than the defensive line or the offensive line or the linebackers, or we have slow defensive ends, whatever it is. Like, our problems are way bigger, way bigger. The roster, fine. I mean, if you don't think if Demarcus Robinson was a wide receiver on the Saints, do you think he would have done what he did last night? Do you think Puka Nacua would be having the rookie season if he was on the Saints? Conversely, what do you think Rashid Shaheed would be doing if he played for the Rams? What do you think Chris Olave would be doing if he played for the Chiefs? What do you think Alvin Kamara would be doing if he played for the Eagles or the 49ers? You understand what I'm saying? People get too bogged down in, check box 1 or check box 2. Was Carr good or was Carr bad? There's so many layers to this, especially this deep into the season. The Saints are, I've used this analogy before, but it's not the ingredients. It's who the chef is. That's the problem with the Saints right now. Nothing to do with the ingredients or what pots and pans we're using or the oven or the stove or what brand salt we're using. It's none of that. It's who we have trying to cook the meal. It's who we have being the chef. It's Dennis Allen, it's Pete Carmichael, it's the entire staff, it's the culture, it's the philosophy, and it's sucked the life out of this team. suck the life out of the fan base. And I truly believe this is it. I truly believe in about a month's time, when the season is officially over, and I don't mean over, as far as the standings, I mean there's no more games left. I think when that happens, I think Allen's gone. I think Carmichael's gone. And I think, whenever you bring in a new head coach and they're going to bring in their own coordinator. So a majority of the staff is probably gone. There's no way you can bring Dennis Allen back after underachieving this much this year. Even 9 wins, even if we go beat Tampa, beat Atlanta, 9 wins, we win the division. Even that, with how easy the schedule was, that's an underachievement. And think about this. That would be Dennis Allen's best season of his career. 9-7. Think about how disappointing this season has been. And this would be the best result of his coaching career. And that speaks volumes about this guy.
Overall, I thought he played
Jesus, get a new microphone, guys.
I think there's certainly some plays that he and we would probably like to have back. I don't know statistically how it finished up. I mean, I thought there was some plays that he made, and I thought there was probably a couple of plays in there that I felt like it wasn't where we needed to be. So yeah, I thought he played okay.
The Saints' playoff chances now increasingly become slim. The team will get the weekend off to enjoy the holidays, then are back to it to prepare for the Tampa Bay Bucks for a road game, and then we'll close out the regular season at home against the Atlanta Falcons. We will continue breaking down the Saints' Week 16 loss on New Orleans.Football live on YouTube.
Yep, we know what we got to do.
Friday.
I mean, you got to beat the Bucks, got to beat the Falcons. That's it. And you got to hope Jacksonville beats Tampa Bay. It is what it is. And there's two things. Two things we're going to be talking about. I mean, 2 things to look at for the rest of the year. You want the Saints to win. Like the Saints losing has no impact on Allen Carmichael. Has no impact on the draft in the grand scheme of things. They have 2 more games to play. They're going to play them regardless. We want them to win. All right? And then after that, after we deal with the season, after we deal with the regular season, the next thing we can talk about is the offseason. Who are we drafting? And before that, who is the new head coach? Who's the new coordinators? What's their ideas? What's their philosophy? What's their vision? How does the draft fit into that? So that's where our focus is as Saints fans. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Go down in the comments below. I will see you in the next video.